One of the European NATO countries has decided to launch the largest military modernization in its history, worth more than 25 billion euros. You might be thinking that this is common nowadays. Yes, but there's a big catch. It's not happening because of Russia. It's happening because of its own NATO ally. Does that sound crazy? Maybe, but it's still true. Within the North Atlantic Alliance, a hidden conflict is simmering beneath a facade of peace, with origins deep in the past. Welcome to the channel Beyond Borders. Here, we uncover hidden connections, power games, and conflicts that shape our world. A silent war in the heart of the alliance. On paper, everything seems perfect. An alliance that unites 30 countries, a common goal, common defense, a common enemy, an outward image of unity, but inside, something is breaking. Beneath the polite smiles and diplomatic statements, unspoken tension is rising. Some conflicts occur within the alliance itself, not just at the borders, between countries that may be on the same side, but for centuries have not trusted each other. Each of them has its own story, its own grievances, and its own sense of threat. And when these feelings start to mix with politics and weapons, the balance can collapse very quickly. That's exactly what's happening today in the Eastern Mediterranean. Two NATO allies, Greece and Turkey, are officially partners but are actually preparing for a possible conflict. Their hostility runs deep. The Greeks have never forgotten the Ottoman conquest, and the Turks have never forgiven the loss of their power over the Aegean Sea. While NATO brought them together, their internal wounds never fully healed and are reopening today. In the video, you'll find out why Greece and Turkey are enemies, how both countries join NATO despite not fitting in, and a comparison of their armies. We'll examine their strengths and weaknesses. Within NATO, who has the edge at sea and in the air? What would NATO do if allies faced each other in battle in 2025? Modernization and threats in 2025. The world is watching the war in Ukraine and the tension between the United States and China. But on the southeastern edge of Europe, something is happening that could have even greater consequences for NATO. Greece has decided to launch the largest armament program in its history. Armed Forces Modernization, costing over 25 billion euros. Athens announced a plan that changes the balance in the entire region. By 2036, they want to completely rebuild the Air Force, Navy, and air defense. French Rafale fighter jets and modernized F-16 Vipers are appearing in the skies. Belhara frigates and Exocet anti-ship missiles are being readied at sea. The plan also involves expanding cyber forces, training pilots with France's support, and investing in drones and electronic warfare. It's officially called modernization within NATO. But anyone who follows the Eastern Mediterranean knows that the real reason isn't Russia, it's Turkey. Greece claims that it faces constant provocations, violations of its airspace, and aggressive policies from Ankara. Turkey, meanwhile, accuses Athens of blocking its access to energy resources and making illegitimate sea claims. Tensions have been rising for months. In April 2025, reports emerged about an alleged Turkish plan to invade some Greek islands. Leaked information published by Nordic Monitor claims these plans were stopped after United States and French intervention. Ankara denied all accusations, but Turkish officials' rhetoric grew harsher. President Erdogan spoke about protecting the Turkish world, and the foreign minister warned that Turkey would strike first if provoked. Greece responded by strengthening its forces on the Aegean Islands and publicly declared that it is ready to defend its sovereignty. Prime Minister Mitsotakis urged Turkey to stop its military threats, to gain access to the European Defense Program, SAFE. At the same time, Athens warned that they would block any Turkish attempt to join the European defense funds. The European Union and NATO are increasingly nervous as airspace incidents happen daily. Greek and Turkish fighter jets regularly come so close that a single pilot's mistake could lead to a tragedy. In July, the Greek Navy said Turkish ships violated territorial waters during an exercise. Ankara responded by saying that Greek islands do not have the right to a full exclusive economic zone. This dispute isn't only about territory, it's also a fight for prestige, power, and energy control. There are vast natural gas deposits hidden in the Aegean Sea that could change the region's energy map. For Greece, it's an opportunity for economic growth and reduced reliance on Russian supplies. For Turkey, it's a symbolic fight for respect and dominance. Though both sides discuss peace, their actions move toward conflict. Military budgets are rising, new bases are opening, and exercises are happening just kilometers apart. The silent conflict is becoming open rivalry. How much longer can the alliance stay silent as two members near armed conflict? The roots of hatred. To understand why Greece and Turkey remain rivals after decades, we must look far back into history. Not just a few years, not just a few decades, but centuries. It began with the fall of the Byzantine Empire in 1453. Constantinople, now Istanbul, was taken by the Ottomans, along with the Greek heritage, long a symbol of Eastern Christianity. For the Greeks, it was not just the loss of a city, it was the loss of identity, civilization, and faith. Turkey became the heir to the empire, and Greece disappeared from the map as an independent state for more than 400 years. Ottoman rule left deep scars. Uprisings were brutally suppressed. Greek churches were turned into mosques, and education became a privilege. But the idea of independence persisted from the in the 19th century. As the empire began to fall apart, the Greeks seized the opportunity. In 1821, an uprising began, and after years of conflict and European support, the modern Greek state was formed. It was a triumph, but also sparked lasting hostility. A century of conflict followed, then a catastrophe that deeply impacted both nations' collective memory. The Greek-Turkish War, from 1919 to 1922, after the Ottoman Empire collapsed, Greece tried to retake parts of Asia Minor with large Greek populations, but Mustafa Kemal Ataturk's Turkish forces stopped them. Smyrna, now Izmir, saw massacres and a fire that destroyed Greek neighborhoods. The Greeks call this the Asia Minor catastrophe, the end of a 1,000-year Byzantine heritage in Asia Minor. The result was a population exchange in 1923. More than 1.5 million Greeks had to leave their homes in Turkey. At the same time, about 500,000 Turks moved from Greece to the new republic. Whole communities vanished, towns emptied, and cultures that had mixed for centuries were forcibly split. Since then, they've distrusted each other. Their 1952 NATO entry was driven by necessity, not friendship, united by the Soviet threat, not a shared vision. The Greeks saw the Turks as former oppressors, while the Turks saw the Greeks as traitors who had joined the West against them. How did they join NATO? After World War II, Europe became a chessboard with great powers making moves. The Soviet Union was expanding, communism spread in the Balkans, and the West sought to halt Moscow's advance. In this climate, two nations emerged at the border of two worlds, Greece and Turkey. Both had strategic locations, controlled access to the Mediterranean Sea, and were weakened after decades of internal conflict. Greece went through a bloody civil war in which communist and monarchist forces stood against each other. Turkey remained formally neutral during World War II, but it was economically and politically exhausted. In 1947, the Truman Doctrine was introduced as an American plan to stop Soviet influence in Southern Europe. Washington gave hundreds of millions in aid to Athens and Ankara for strategic, not altruistic reasons. Greece and Turkey were the gateway to the Mediterranean, bridging Europe, the Middle East, and the Caucasus. If the Soviet Union captured them, the West would lose its southern flank. Former rivals became allies, at least officially. In 1952, they joined NATO together, as a pair united by the threat from the East. It was a forced marriage, not love. The United States needed control of the Bosporus, the Dardanelles, and the Aegean Sea. And both Greece and Turkey knew that without American protection, their neighbor would threaten them even more. But the tension between them didn't go away because of that. It only took a few years to show that the alliance had cracks. Each of the countries wanted to get something different out of NATO. Greece sought security guarantees against Turkey, while Turkey wanted modern weapons and international legitimacy. When Ankara invaded Cyprus in 1974, the alliance was left in shock. Two members ended up on opposing sides. Suddenly, NATO was unsure how to respond, unable to defend one member against another. Since then, the question of whom the alliance would support in the event of a Greek-Turkish conflict has never been fully answered. Geopolitically, their presence in NATO still made sense. Greece controlled access to the Aegean Sea and the Adriatic, while Turkey controlled the Bosporus and entry to the Black Sea. They were two parts of the same gateway for Moscow to access the south, which was clear to the United States. Keeping them in the alliance was more advantageous than risking that they would join the Soviets. Beneath this pragmatism, there was a reality the West refused to admit. Two cultures, two religions, and two historical worlds that had never truly met joined the alliance. Samuel Huntington later observed this rift, warning that NATO is more than a military alliance. It's a civilizational project, and Greece and Turkey are foreign bodies within it. And that brings us to the heart of the problem, a conflict that's not only political but civilizational. Huntington's Clash of Civilizations perspective. When Samuel Huntington wrote The Clash of Civilizations in the 1990s, many didn't realize it also addressed the Greece-Turkey conflict. Huntington divided the world not according to state borders, but according to the borders of civilizations, cultural, religious, and historical. He claimed future conflicts would occur between civilizational blocks, not countries. According to his map, Greece belongs to the Orthodox civilization, along with Russia, Serbia, and Bulgaria. Turkey, meanwhile, aligns with Islamic civilization, spanning North Africa to Central Asia. Tension arises exactly where these two civilizations meet. Huntington compared civilizational fault lines to tectonic lines, which appear stable until they suddenly shake. Greece and Turkey are a prime example. Both countries stand on the border of two different worlds. They have a different religion, a different historical story, and different values. After centuries of Ottoman rule, Greece turned toward the West, toward the European Union, toward secularism, and toward the ideal of democracy, which it considers a continuation of the ancient tradition. Though Turkey, led by Ataturk, aimed to modernize and align with the West, it never fully transformed. Islam, nationalism, and a strong state formed its identity. And right here, between these two worlds, lies the border that even NATO couldn't erase. Huntington would say that Greece and Turkey are civilizationally incompatible. They were united by geopolitics, not culture. They're linked by fear, not trust. So it's understandable, he says, that even allies remain suspicious of one another. From this perspective, Greek-Turkish tension is not an anomaly, but a consequence of a deeper division of the world. Huntington warned that the West would split from within if it tried to keep countries that do not belong to it culturally within one structure. Looking at today's NATO map, his words seem almost uncomfortably accurate. Countries such as Germany, France, the Netherlands, and Canada are in the alliance's north and west. Stable secular democracies united by a common cultural tradition and Western values. But on the southeastern edge lies its most fragile spot, Greece and Turkey. Two countries that may share the same membership but not the same world. Today, NATO is held together only by the force of habit, not by a shared vision. And it's precisely in the example of Greece and Turkey that we see Huntington was not wrong. We're not done yet. If you like this video, give it some praise. It'll help it reach more people. And if you want to support my work, you can do so with a small contribution as a thank you. Thank you. Let's continue. Current fronts, energy, islands, drones. If Greece and Turkey have a rivalry, today it's at sea, not on land. The Aegean Sea, thousands of kilometers of coastline, hundreds of islands, and countless lines on the map, each side drawing them differently. At first glance, it's a peaceful area, but in reality, it's one of the most explosive places in Europe. The tension is based on two problems: airspace and exclusive economic zones. Greece claims its borders extend 12 nautical miles from its coast, granting rights to most of the Aegean Sea. Turkey recognizes only 6 miles and warns it will consider Athens' expansion a cause for war. This position has been part of Turkish parliament doctrine since 1995. Added to this are hundreds of small islands and rocks stretching along the Turkish coast, some just a few kilometers from Anatolia. Greece considers them its own. Turkey claims they are disputed. In practice, fighter jets from both countries fly over the Aegean Sea daily, with dangerous close encounters occurring regularly. The Greeks report violations of their airspace, while the Turks speak of defensive maneuvers. The situation became even more complicated when natural gas deposits were discovered in the eastern Mediterranean. Estimates indicate tens of trillions of cubic meters, possibly a new energy source for Europe. However, the boundaries for extraction are unclear. Turkey disputes the legitimacy of the Greek and Cypriot zones. It sends research vessels with military escorts to the area. Greece responds with exercises with France and Egypt. Cyprus is still an open wound. The island has been divided since 1974, when Turkey occupied its northern part. Turkish troops remain in the north, and Ankara insists peace cannot be discussed without recognizing the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. For Greeks, it's an occupation. For Turks, minority protection. For NATO, an awkward silence no one wants to address. Plus, the annual maneuvers happen. Military exercises that are increasingly resembling preparations for a real conflict. Greece is training for island defense scenarios, while Turkey is practicing their occupation. Everyone says it's for defense, but both sides are really preparing for the same thing. Who has the advantage here? Turkey has a larger army, its own arms industry, and a huge production capacity. Greece has modern Western technology, good geography, and strong allies. In an armed conflict, victory would depend more on response speed and sea control than army size. And today, only one side has this advantage, the one that can keep the Aegean Sea under surveillance. Greece versus Turkey. Military balance is precarious. The numbers make this clear. Turkey has a large army, with over 450,000 active soldiers and 380,000 in reserve. Greece has around 120,000 active soldiers and a strong compulsory service system that enables rapid mobilization of 200,000 reservists. The numbers are clear, but wars haven't been won by numbers alone for a long time. Turkey has the advantage in scale and industrial self-sufficiency. It's one of the few NATO countries able to produce tanks, armored vehicles, artillery, drones, and soon its own fighter jets. The TFX-KAN project, the first Turkish fifth-generation stealth fighter jet. Generation is expected to enter service later this decade. Turkish shipyards are building Istanbul-class frigates, Reis-class submarines, and amphibious assault ships, like the Turkish Naval Forces ship Anadolu, a hybrid aircraft carrier and amphibious ship made for power projection in the Aegean and Mediterranean seas. Greece, however, chose quality and Western interoperability. It has bought French Rafale jets, is upgrading its F-16s to Viper versions, and plans to acquire the F-35 Lightning II. This will put its air force technologically ahead of most of its neighbors. The Greek fleet consists of modernized frigates and new corvettes, as well as 4 German Type 214 submarines with air-independent propulsion technology. This lets them move silently in the narrow Aegean Sea, and also reflects a strategic difference. Turkey is preparing to expand and project power. It must respond quickly at sea and in the air, secure transport, and control key islands. Greece, however, is using a defensive model. It uses the islands as natural fortresses combined with air defense systems, a radar network, and naval mines. In other words, Turkey would have to attack while Greece would just need to hold out. Geography also plays an important role in this balance. Greek islands such as Lesbos, Chios, Samos, and Rhodes lie just a few kilometers from Turkey's coast. The Turkish command views them as an unnatural extension of the Greek zone. For the Greeks, these islands are crucial to defending the Aegean Sea, each with military garrisons, radars, and defense systems. Ankara says Athens is violating international demilitarization treaties. Athens says Turkey has voided these agreements through its amphibious exercises. Military analysts say that a conflict between Greece and Turkey would be asymmetrical. Ankara has greater population, weapons, and industry, but Greece would fight on familiar ground with Allied support and better command. The Turkish army is larger but spread thin, needing to guard borders with Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Armenia. Greek defense is concentrated in one single place, the Aegean Sea. Conclusion: NATO caught between a rock and a hard place. When two allies gear up for war, their alliance becomes trapped. That's exactly what's happening to NATO now. On one side, Turkey, the second largest army in the alliance, controlling access to the Black Sea and the bridge between Europe and the Middle East. On the other side, Greece, an European Union member, Western strategic partner, and key to Southeastern Europe's defense. If conflict arose between them, NATO would face a dilemma over which member to defend and against whom. The alliance does not have a mechanism that would allow it to intervene if two member countries found themselves in an open conflict. Article 5 on collective defense can only be triggered by an external attack. NATO would have to watch as two members clash, unable to formally intervene. This threat has been discussed privately for years. According to leaked reports, scenarios are being prepared for how the alliance would respond if Turkey carried out a landing on one of the Greek islands. One version calls for immediate United States mediation, while another suggests convening an extraordinary NATO council. In both cases, it is assumed the conflict must be resolved politically, not militarily. In this situation, NATO finds itself between a rock and a hard place. If it supported Greece, it would lose Turkey and with it, access to the Black Sea. If it sided with Turkey, it would break the unity within the European Union and cause a political scandal. That's why the alliance stays silent today. Instead of resolving the tension, it tries to suppress it and hopes that time will solve everything. If you like the video, I'd appreciate a like and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next ones I'm working on. Support my work with gratitude and help the video reach more people by clicking praise. Thank you.